Welcome to Ketchy Gaming. This is Ketchy 1383, and this is episode 4 of the Epic's weekly game giveaway. This week is Unrailed. Unrailed is a online and couch co-op multiplayer railroad construction game. I'm just reading that directly. You're supposed to play with your friends, but none of mine were available at the time when I tried playing this. So I went with the AI. So it starts off with an interesting interface in which you move your avatar that you chose onto the menu to select it. I went with a gingerbread man because my friend likes gingerbread men and they didn't have a cat, so I went and started with a tutorial. And I either didn't pay attention or I missed out on some things. Because when I played the game later, I totally messed up. And I'll explain how. It seems simple enough. You cut down wood with an axe that you pick up with a key or a button on the controller. I started off with the keyboard. A lot of Epic games don't have support for controllers, especially the Xbox controller. So I just didn't plug in my controller thinking that it wasn't going to work with it. It did when I tried it later. But I stuck with the keyboard. Anyways, you chop wood and then you mine rocks. You get iron and wood from it and you put it in a construction cart, which then builds tracks for your train. The idea is to build tracks so that it doesn't collide or fall into water or anything like that. You go until you get to the station. So then I did a quick game and I started up, and right off the bat it started giving me more tutorial, which they didn't cover in the tutorial regarding the AI. You think they would have covered that in the tutorial, but they didn't. I read it, I'm like, okay, sure. And I totally forgot what my emoji buttons are, and weird enough, I didn't consider the options that were supposed to be like showing that you wanted wood or anything like that to be emojis. So I didn't know that you could use those to command the AI. I found that out later when I used a controller instead. They could have done a bit of a better job in terms of showing you how to use the AI if you were playing alone. But as you can see, my idiot moronness that I exhibit whenever I play new games was trying to constantly go through that graystone, not knowing that I can't go through the graystone. They didn't tell you about the graystone in the tutorial. They just said you get minerals or iron from the graystone. So I sat there trying to knock away at it and it didn't work. And then it's also adding more tutorial information onto the bot at the same time, as you can see. And the controls are a bit weird for the PC. At one point, it's telling me to hit Shift and Spacebar. I try hitting them both at the same time. Nothing happens. And this was in order to control the AI. I hit every combination of the two keys, one before the other, at the same time. I even button mashed them. Couldn't get it to do anything in regarding the two keys. Yet again, something they should have covered in the tutorial, and they didn't. At one point, I just got frustrated that I couldn't break the gray stone because they failed to mention that you can't break the gray stone. And on top of it, constantly flashing more tutorials for the AI, same one over and over again, tell me to hit Shift and Space and it not doing anything. I gave up and decided to try later. So the next day I played the game and I used a controller this time. And the weird thing is, as soon as I started to play, it didn't flash any tutorial information for the AI, which kind of confused me at the time. But this is where I figured out that you have to mine the light brown and you cannot mine the gray stone. At this point, I hadn't quite figured out how to use the AI, and I kind of just stumbled upon it when I did an emote that had a question mark over it, and the AI just sort of wandered around with it, and that's how I linked the two together, that the emotes were related on the other option for the circle menu. Or I should say radial menu, not circle menu. So with not really realizing how to use the AI at the time, and on top of that the train catching on fire, and it spread fast, and it actually, like, I could not put it out. I put maybe 1 or 2 cards out, and then they would start on fire again faster than I could. I forgot that I could sprint, which probably wouldn't have helped all that much, to be honest. As you can see, it's literally just lighting them all on fire, one after another, and it was just not doable with this map. At least from where I was going at it, I should have gone to the water up top. So here you can see me messing with the radial menu, and I accidentally, just to get it out of the way, I selected one. And you can see the AI reacts to it. I'm not entirely sure why they programmed it to react to that particular emoji. It's supposed to show an emotion to your fellow players, but the AI rolls with it. And I'm kind of confused why they did that. So when I finally gave it a command to start building railroad tracks, it actually kind of surprised me just a little bit. In that, one, it did manufacture the rails, but once those rails were full, it actually took them off and put them off to the side, which kind of surprised me. It's actually smarter in some ways than I thought it would be, or maybe more capable is the way I'm looking to phrase that. I'll also add that I had to drop this down to kids difficulty, and I did that so I could learn more about the game at a slower pace, because the tutorial was not adequate. On top of that, you saw how fast the train caught on fire, and I couldn't put it out. So even with an AI, it's clearly meant to be played with multiple people, not just with you and an AI. The AI is very capable, like I said, but it requires a touch of micromanaging in a sort of way to make sure that it's doing something productive to help you. So I did manage to get the train to the first station, in which it then gave me supplies, or I guess a currency more or less, to increase some of the stats on some of my items. Unfortunately, I was standing on the menu to, start the next section, and I didn't get to purchase anything. Kind of a drawback to how its interface works. I goofed around for a little bit longer, and after a bit I just decided to stop and called it good, thinking I got a relatively decent experience of what the game is and what it entails. And it definitely feels like a game that's best left to play with multiple people, although the AI is competent. It just didn't feel like it was all that entertaining or fun to play by myself, so that's when I just stopped. I can't speak in terms of what it's like to play with multiple people and how much more fun that could be, or maybe how much more of a pain in the butt it could be. It might be a fun game, so I guess get it off of Epic and give it a try. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching and have a good one.